Welcome to Scrapdragon TV. In this episode, we'll discuss invoicing. We'll talk about how invoices get created from the contract and when a shipment is closed. We'll also look at the use of mill and ship weights and the ability to handle recovery percentages. The shipping menu is where all shipping procedures are performed. We'll begin by looking for a contract. On the Contract Finder by Document Number screen, we'll find an existing contract. Search for monthly contracts for October. Copper for October is already selected. We're going to edit it. On the General tab, we can see the contract's been set up to invoice on ship weights. There is also the option to invoice on mill weights. Let's look at the Shipments tab. The Shipments list shows the detail for each shipment. The checkbox along the left indicates whether the shipment's been invoiced or not. The Invoices tab shows each of these in the list that has been invoiced. And you can see that there are 4. Back on the Shipments tab, we notice that one shipment has not been invoiced. Let's look at the invoice details. We can see the shipped weight and the cost. Everything looks okay here. We want the invoice created for this shipment. We've selected the checkbox, so we'll invoice selected shipments. Notice that we have a choice whether we want to invoice on mill weight or ship weights. We'll preview the document. And then we'll print the invoice. On the Invoices tab, we can see that our invoice has been added here. We'll close the screen. Now let's look at how we create the invoice when a shipment's closed. We're going to add a shipment to Autos for November. We've added a few details to this shipment. We're ready to close it. We're asked if we want to create the freight ticket, and we will. At this point, we can preview the weight ticket. We can print it, or we can print all if we had multiple documents to print. But we're interested in creating the invoice here. This is another way to create the invoice. So we're going to print our document. We are sure we want to create the invoice. And there it is. And we're done. Let's look at recovery percentages. In our case, we'll open the recovery percentages example. This contract shows it to be a ferrous contract being invoiced on mill weights. The Materials tab has one item. The recovery percentage shows 80%. Next, we'll look at shipments. There is one shipment that shows the shipped weight and mill weight along with the shipped and invoice costs. The invoice number is also shown. We can look at the shipment details. This is where we can enter the mill gross and tear weights, and the recovery percentage can also be changed here. On the Invoice tab, the invoice has already been completed. An invoice may be recalculated if changes to the recovery percentage or weights are made. Invoices may also be adjusted here. Let's go back to the Shipments tab and we'll touch Shipment Details. The customer is called in after processing the shipment. He tells us he was only able to recover 70% and not 80%. We can adjust the recovery percentage and then the invoice so it is accurate. And we'll save it. Now let's go to the Invoice tab, and we can recalculate the invoice. And you'll notice the invoice has adjusted. We can also reprice an inventory item if we need to, and then recalculate the invoice. We'll go to the Materials tab, and we're going to edit, and we're going to change the price to $225. We'll save that. We can go back to the Invoices tab and we can recalculate the invoice. And you'll notice the invoice has again been adjusted. That's all there is to creating invoices. This concludes this episode of Scrap Dragon TV.